is up, everybody? Welcome to RCC at Home. My name's Danny.
And my name's Natasha. If you're new here or have been watching our videos for a while, hit that subscribe button and the little bell to be notified when new videos are released on this channel.
I hope you can tell we're not at the RCC building this morning. We're actually at Green Lake Conference Center, and that is because next week, June 6th, we're having our first summer outdoor service right here at the Conference Center, Vesper Circle. So if you're part of our RCC at Home family and you're trying to get a little bit more connected with us as a community, come on down. It's gonna be a great time. 9 a.m. is our service, and we're having 3 this summer. Next Sunday, June 6th, July 4th, and our big one,
August 1st. You're going to want to mark your calendars for that one and be here because it's our RCC baptism picnic. It's going to be a huge celebration, so come on out with your friends and family and get ready to eat some good food and celebrate people taking a next step in their relationship with God. If you are at all curious about baptism, have questions, or interested in being baptized this year, you can reach out to Pastor Sam.
Yeah, that's going to be a great service to be at. You're not going to want to miss it, especially if you want to get baptized yourself. Before we do dive into our service today, we're in week 2 of our identity theft series. We're talking about being pickpocketed by our past, but next Monday, June 7th, just after our Vesper Circle service, we're having a community blood drive at our downtown location, 155 State Street. Did you know you're somebody's type? So if you're trying to save a life, sign up, donate some blood. It'll be an awesome thing. So
There'll be a link in the description box below.
Don't try and change me, fix me up or rearrange me, take it or leave it, 'cause I don't need reforming. Yeah, you know I'm gone, I won't look back.
And we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. We know that. We also know that this means that anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old life is gone. The new life has begun. Either those two verses are true or they're not. They're either true or they're not. And if they're true, then God is capable and willing to work with you and use your past to create a brighter future. And I don't know about you, but I want that. I think you want that. Like we're here, right? Like you're maybe in your car or in your living room or at work watching or listening to this. And we want God to do something in our lives. But there's a problem. There's a problem. Most of the time, we let the past pickpocket our identity, and it robs us of our future. And to be clear, the brighter future we often allow our past to rob us of is not some like euphoric perfection filled with riches. It's not easy street. That's not what I'm talking. No, I'm talking about a life where God leads. And because God leads, there is a brightness and a lightness and joy that literally defies circumstances. A purpose and a significance that brings meaning to your days and an ability to see God working for good in every single hidden corner of this world. But there's that problem, isn't there? There's that past thing. I mean, have you ever seen someone pickpocket someone else? I mean, normally it's not something you see very often because people are pretty sly about how they do it. Maybe you've had it happen to you, or maybe you've just watched it on television, right? There's a show that my wife and I used to watch. It was called White Collar, and it was this guy who was incredible at stealing things. He was so good. He'd steal these really expensive paintings, all kinds of crazy stuff, and so he ended up getting caught finally, and he worked for the FBI trying to solve cases where people had stolen stuff. But every once in a while, he'd break out his skill set. He'd break out this skill set where he'd go and he'd pickpocket somebody, and like it was amazing to watch because it'd like be the art of distraction. Like, look over here, but really I'm doing this thing over here. And it just would happen. It was just fun to watch because it's such a crazy skill. Maybe not a good skill to have, but it was crazy. But the point was this. The point was always that you're not supposed to realize it's happening or that it's happened until much later. Until like you're going to the grocery store and you reach for your wallet and it's not there, and you try and buy groceries but you can't because all the money's gone and they're using your credit card to buy crazy stuff online. That's just kind of how it happens, right? You don't realize it's happening until later. The truth is this. You have been pickpocketed by the past. Some of you just haven't realized it yet. And do you want to know how you can tell? You can tell because all of us, every last one of us, we have these tics, these little things that we do, these little insecurities, moments in life when we maybe shy away a little bit, or we get real nervous and insecure, or we start talking really fast, or we get really quiet. We remove ourselves from situations. When you sense that, there's something there. For me, it's kind of an unfortunate one. It has to do with water. I have never in my life been a skilled swimmer. I've taken lessons throughout the years. Even in college, I went and got lessons, and the coach said, "You sink." Like, not like you stink. He said, "You sink," literally. And he was just he couldn't believe how much I sank. But it caused me some very embarrassing moments in my life. And at one point, I could have very easily drowned. I was out on a boat, and we were out swimming, and we went to a place of swimming. I could do a little bit of swimming, and we were in a place where I couldn't touch. And so I'm trying to make it back to the boat, and I'm realizing it's not going to work. I'm not going to get there. And so I start yelling out like, "Hey, help, help." And luckily somebody was a lifeguard with us, and they came back and they helped me get to the boat. But that was an embarrassing moment. And I'm to the point now where if you throw me in the water, I'm not going to drown very easily. But I still get that feeling. I still feel it. What is it that makes you feel those things? What gets you to that place? One of the wonderful things about the Bible is that it's filled with stories of real human people with real complicated lives. And so I want to tell you about a guy named Jacob. Jacob was the second son of Isaac. So Abraham, Isaac, then Jacob. And Jacob was Isaac's son, but he had a twin brother, Esau, who actually was like the firstborn son, technically. He came out first, right? Esau came out first, so Jacob was second born. And the reality about these two was they could not be more different. Esau, he's this man's man. He's a hunter. He's hairy. He's just the kind of guy who you look at him like, that is a man. And then there's Jacob. And I don't know if this is politically correct to say anymore, but Jacob was what we might call or refer to as a mama's boy. He was smooth-skinned. He did lots of stuff inside the house. He was a great cook, which I'm not knocking great cooks. Great cooks are amazing, guy or girl. I'm happy if you're a great cook. But that, in that day, was a bit odd, right? And so that's who Jacob was. And Rebecca, his mom, at one point, she's told by God, Jacob is the one who's supposed to receive the blessing, who's supposed to have God's lineage or God's family be through him. And so Rebecca has always kind of had him in her court. And the story from there, it gets even crazier. It's this wild story. Jacob, he obviously is this great cook, and his brother is this hunter. And so there's this time when Esau goes out hunting. It's not a good hunt. He doesn't bring back anything. And so he comes back and he's empty-handed and starving. And so he comes back and Jacob had prepared this whole big pot of soup, and it smells delicious. So Esau, he comes up to Jacob and he says, "Give me some of that soup. I'm starving. I'm about to die." And Jacob says, "Sure, I'll give you some soup for your birthright," which is like all the possessions he would inherit when his father Isaac dies. And Esau says yes. And so he gets this bowl of soup. I imagine it like this tiny bowl, but hopefully it was a big one. But he sells his birthright to Jacob for some soup. It's crazy. And it gets even wilder after that. there comes the point where Isaac is in his last days and he's struggling to see and he knows the end is coming. And so he calls for Esau and he says to Esau, Esau, I'm about to die. Go and kill some kind of good game, bring it back, make a delicious meal for me because I am going to bless you. So Esau runs off and does it. But in this moment, Rebekah, she hears, and so she runs and grabs Jacob, and she says, hey, your father's going to get this blessing to Esau. You have to be the one who gets it. Go and kill a lamb. We'll prepare it together, and it will make the meal just as your father likes it. So he does. He prepares the meal. He goes and he literally covers his arms with fur, and he goes in and he talks to his father, and his father asks him, are you Esau? And Jacob says, yeah, I'm Esau. So Isaac blesses Jacob, thinking he's Esau. And then Esau comes back, prepares the meal, brings it into his father, and his father says, oh no, I just blessed Jacob. I can't give you that blessing any longer. And Esau is furious, so angry, so upset. And so literally it gets to the point where Jacob has to run away to leave that place. And he goes to his uncle, and wild things happen there. He gets really rich. God kind of has favor on him, and then he and his uncle get at odds, and he has to run away from that situation again too. And so finally, years later, God says, okay, Jacob, it's time to go back. It's time to go back to where Esau is. It's time to confront your past because I'm going to make a great nation out of you, and this is where you have to be for it. So Jacob listens. And the night before he's going to meet Esau, he sends this huge mass of a family across the river, and he sits beside the river and he falls asleep. He sleeps beside the river. He'd sent the others ahead, and this is what happens. It's in Genesis 32. It says, this left Jacob all alone in the camp, and a man came and wrestled with him until the dawn began to break. When the man saw that he would not win the match, he touched Jacob's hip and wrenched it out of its socket. Then the man said, let me go, for the dawn is breaking. But Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. What is your name? The man asked. Last time Jacob had to answer that question, he lied about it. What is your name? But this time Jacob says, Jacob, my name is Jacob. And the man he was wrestling with says, your name will no longer be Jacob, the man told him. From now on, you will be called Israel, because you have fought with God and with men and have won. So, Jacob, Israel, we know Israel now. That's where it comes from. But Jacob wakes up the next morning. He crosses the river. He knows that Esau is on his way to meet him, but he's on his way to meet him with 400 armed men because he had sent scouts out to sea. And so Jacob gets his family, splits them into multiple groups. He says maybe if Esau attacks one of them, the others can escape. And they go with all kinds of gifts for Esau to try and appease him. And they head off into the place where they're going to meet Esau. And the first family gets to Esau and they're okay. They go up on by. The second family does the same. It's all good. And then it finally gets to the point where it's Esau and Jacob goes on ahead to meet Esau. And Jacob bows 7 times before Esau. He bows 1, 2, 3 times, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, and finally Esau just can't handle it anymore. Is your heart pounding? Mine is. Remember all of that bad blood. Confronting your past is not easy. It's frightening. It's easy to run from your past, just like Jacob did time and time again. Bad situation, I'm just going to run. Bad situation, I'm just going to run. Confronting your past is another story. It brings out the shame. It brings out the fear. It brings out self-conscious shrinking back that so many of us deal with without even really realizing it. I mean, I can tell you exact moments when my body was made the butt end of some jokes. I can tell you about being rejected. I can tell you about when I made mistakes and then spent weeks with my head hanging ashamed. And I'll share you the public therapy session, but I need you to know, no matter how confident someone seems, they have a past, and it has stolen something from them. There are places, there are people, words, even smells that when I encounter them, I'm flashed back to those moments and they've caused me to shrink back. It's real. Confronting your past it's no easy thing, and that's what's so amazing about the story of Jacob. What's so amazing about the story of Jacob is that it's not just about Jacob. It's also a story about Esau. He has his own story to tell. Flash back a bit when Jacob stole Esau's blessing. Esau was just devastated. I mean, he sat there and he begged and pleaded with his father to bless him too. So his father finally relents, and he gave him this blessing. He says, this is some kind of blessing, right? He says, "You will live away from the richness of the earth and away from the dew of the heaven above. You will live by your sword, and you will serve your brother. But when you decide to break free, you will shake his yoke from your neck." Esau walks out of that moment with his father, and he says to himself, he says it out loud, he says, "I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him." So here we are, right? Years later, and Jacob is just standing there for the taking, and Esau can't take it anymore, right? So he runs out to his brother, the brother who stole his birthright and his blessing. He's running towards him, and then he throws his arms around him, and they embrace, and they fall down, and they weep, and they cry. You see, when Esau was blessed and told that he would someday break free, breaking free did not mean killing Jacob. It meant forgiving him. It demanded forgiving him. Some of you, wherever you're at, in your car, in your living room, in your office, wherever, walking around the block, you're hearing this or you're watching this and you have had something pickpocketed from you from your past. Someone did something to you and it has haunted you and it has stolen so much of your life. The only way to break free is to forgive. Easier said than done. I mean, especially when those things that have defined us, they've defined us for so long. I mean, it could be something from your childhood, an encounter you've held on to. Maybe you found yourself caught in a family generational cycle. It just won't quit. Maybe it's a series of relationships. You just can't seem to break free from it. It always goes the same way. It's the same mistakes. It's the same choices over and over and over again. But I'll say it again. This means that anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old life, it is gone. A new life has begun. Maybe it seemed impossible, right? Impossible to break free from your past, all the things that have defined you. It seems impossible, and it nearly is. Except for one thing. Except for one person. Jesus. And I'll say it again. This means that anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old life is gone. A new life has begun. We love to define ourselves. We wear certain brands. We claim sports or jobs or grades as our identities. We grow up and we're either really proud of our last name, our family name, or we're not so proud of it. You'd either say your last name loud and proud or with a voice barely above a whisper. And in the world that Jesus walked into, one where Roman citizenship and family name were what defined you, not just for high school, but for life, this truth from Jesus changed everything for people. And when Jesus shows up, he shows value to people who by all standards had none, had zero, had zilch. Prostitutes, tax collectors, the poor and the undesired, men and women who would walk away saying, unclean, unclean, stay away because they had leprosy. And Jesus, he would say, you have value. He'd say, I see you. I see you. He says, I'll stop and wait for you. And then he says when he goes up on that cross and he then rises again after being buried, he says, I will offer you forgiveness and right standing before God. I'll pay the price when I wash away your mistakes and sins. If you just trust me and live for me, this is what is possible for you. This is what's a possibility. This can become true. In Ephesians 1:5, it says, God decided in advance to adopt us into his own family by bringing us to himself through Jesus Christ. This is what he wanted to do, and it gave him great pleasure. It gave him pleasure to adopt you. That's amazing. That's incredible. If you've ever experienced adoption or seen adoption, it is beautiful. But here's the most beautiful part. Here's the part that when I see it in real life, it just takes my breath away when I see it. It's this. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is wasted. Like when I was gardening this last weekend. So my family and I were getting a raised bed all set and like getting the ground ready to plant some flowers and some veggies. And so I went to Ace, and my job was to get the ground ready, to get the dirt in. Like my boys helped me load up the dirt to go put into the raised bed. I got it all set. But I went to Ace Hardware and I grabbed what I needed to grab. Right, you got to have fertilizer to make sure that the ground is ready. And so grabbed some bags of fertilizer, and I got home and I started digging it in and kind of mixing it in with the dirt and doing the shoveling thing and all that stuff. And then I realized that I had this. Right, I had this kind of fertilizer, and I realized in a weird moment that I had spent money, right? Dollar bills on cow poop. I had spent dollar bills on cow poop. I grew up on a farm. I know what cow poo looks like. I know how easily it comes out. I've seen manure piles so big you wouldn't believe, right? That is a reality. But God has designed our world. God, not just our world, God has designed us so that nothing is wasted. Nothing is wasted. Like I said in Romans 8:28 at the very beginning, and we know that God causes everything, all the things, even cow poop, right? He uses everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. Call him on it. Ask him for it. Admit you might not always see it. It might not be exactly how you thought it would be, but start looking for it. Start living like it. You can do that. You can have your past have meaning in your life. You can let it not be wasted. You can do that by taking any of these 3 steps. You can do that by claiming your new and true identity as God's creation and child on a daily basis, just like Jacob did, right? I mean, he was running from his past like crazy until finally he faced it and he said, my name is Jacob. And then God says, not just Jacob, you're the father of a nation. I've got plans for you. You can do that. You can claim your new and true identity as God's creation and child on a daily basis simply by accepting Jesus' invitation to be adopted into God's family. It's as simple as a prayer. One we'll have a chance to say in just a moment. One that can change the trajectory of your life, not just for like now or a week from now or a month from now, but for like forever. Forever. Consider that. Is this a step that you need to take? Is this a step that you need to take? Now, if it's a step you've already taken, make it public. Don't keep it in. If this is something you've said, I'm going to follow Jesus, but you've kind of kept it to yourself, don't stay that way. The best thing for you to do now is to make it public, to get it out there, to say to a group of people, I believe in Jesus and I want you to know it. And then you can say it to a group of people who also made that same commitment. They can support you. That's called baptism. And we're going to do it out at Green Lake Conference Center August 1st. If you're interested in it, on rccsunday.com or ripponchurch.com, there's a red card. You can fill that out, write baptism. We'll get in contact with you. But what you got to know is that this is an opportunity for you to make it public to others, to say, I believe in Jesus, I'm following him with my life, and it has changed me, and I want you to know it. It's an incredible opportunity for you to demonstrate your faith. That's the first step you can take. You can believe, you can be baptized. Second, if you have been holding on and have had your life pickpocketed by the past, you can be set free by forgiving others daily so that you can break free like Esau did. You can break free by forgiving others, and you can do this because Jesus has forgiven you. And because of his forgiveness of you, you can extend it out. And the third thing you can do is this. You can hold God to it. You can believe him that he will use the best and the ugliest parts of your past so that nothing gets wasted. So he makes amazing, beautiful things out of the crap of our lives. You can do that. You can call God to it. You can say, I want that, because God is capable and willing to work with you and to use your past to create a brighter future. A future where you can see God working in your life. You can have brightness and lightness and joy no matter the circumstances. That is all possible for you. You can do that. And if you want to take that step, I encourage you to pray along with me. And that prayer will be three things. First is, if you haven't said, I want to follow you, Jesus, forgive me for my past, use it now for a brighter future, you can pray that with me. Secondly, I'm going to ask us to have the courage to forgive so that we can be set free. And then finally, that we would say, God, I'm holding you to it. Use my past to make a brighter future. If you want those three things, any of those three things, pray this along with me and let's ask God together. Would you pray with me? Dear God, thank you. Thank you that you have given us these promises, that you don't waste anything, that you use it all for you and for us as we work and live for you. So God, for some of us, we have had a past we've been living in and we just can't get out. So we ask you today to make us a new creation, a new life, starting now. We trust your Son. We want to live for him. Forgive us for the past that we've had, but God, use it. Use it for a brighter future, one that honors you. God, for those of us who are stuck with those things that have been defining us for far too long, that have pickpocketed us, help us to forgive. Help us to set ourselves free to live more for you. And then finally, God, we're calling you on it. We ask you to use our past. We know it's going to be hard some days, lots of days. But we know that the brighter future is worth it. So God, use our past for good and for you. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Proverbs 19:17 says that whoever is generous to the poor gives to the Lord. What an amazing opportunity. When you give here at RCC, you're giving to God and you're honoring him with your finances. Not only that, but 10% of everything given at RCC goes directly to supporting the mission field, both abroad and right here at home. The easiest way for you to give is to go to rccsunday.com. From here, you can set up a recurring gift. It can be weekly or monthly, it can be through your bank account or even your debit card. Also, feel free to drop off a check at our downtown location at 155 State Street. There's a mail slot, you can just put it right in there. You are all awesome. Have a great week, and remember, be the church.